When you hear the word Switzerland, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it maybe huge mountains, delicious chocolate, or maybe those super cool red pocket knives? Well, believe it or not, there's an absolutely incredible story behind all of that. So today, we're going to go on a little adventure to find out how this small nation of mountain folk became world famous for peace, freedom, and some of the cleverest inventions you can imagine.
Okay, so our story starts right here, smack dab in the middle of Europe. Just try to imagine living in a valley this green, totally surrounded by these enormous snowy peaks and lakes so clear you can see right to the bottom. I mean, it looks just like something out of a fairy tale, doesn't it?
So how did this unbelievably beautiful land actually become a country? Well, the whole story of Switzerland really begins with a very brave promise, one that was made a long, long time ago, when a few communities decided they were just tired of being bossed around. It all kicked off with a secret pact back in 1291. 3 small mountain communities swore an oath that they would always have each other's backs. And get this, a few years later, they actually won a huge battle against a super powerful army. Nobody thought they could do it. It took a few more centuries of struggle, but finally, in 1648, the rest of the world officially said, "Okay, you're free." Switzerland was its own country.
And it really did all start with just 3. 3 communities, Erie, Schwyz, and Unterwalden. That number, 3, is so important because it's the very beginning of everything. They figured out that by joining forces they could stand up to pretty much anyone. And from that one small promise between 3 friends, a whole country started to grow.
Now, every great story about fighting for freedom needs a hero, right? Well, for Switzerland, that hero is the legendary marksman with nerves of steel, William Tell. His story is one of the most famous tales in the entire world.
So the story goes that this really mean tyrant, a guy named Gessler, stuck his hat on a pole right in the middle of the town square. And he made this ridiculous rule. Everybody who walked by had to bow to it. But our hero, William Tell, he believed that no one should ever have to bow to a bully. So he just refused.
Oh, Gessler was furious. As a punishment for this, he came up with this truly cruel and terrifying test. He decided to force William Tell to prove his famous archery skill in the most dangerous way you can possibly imagine.
But you know what? William Tell didn't panic. He just took a deep breath, aimed his crossbow, and whack! The arrow flew straight and true, splitting that apple perfectly in half without even leaving a scratch on his son. Can you imagine? The whole crowd just erupted in cheers. He had passed the impossible test.
But the story doesn't end there. The tyrant, Gessler, was still super angry, so he threw Tell into a dungeon. But our hero managed to escape, and he eventually defeated that bully for good. William Tell's amazing courage inspired everyone, and his story became this powerful symbol of Switzerland's fight for freedom.
So after all that fighting just to become free, Switzerland made a very special, very important choice. Having seen so much war and conflict, they decided the best way forward was to actually become a nation of peace.
They promised the world they would stay neutral. So what does that even mean? It's kind of like declaring your house a no-fighting zone that all your neighbors agree to respect. For centuries now, Switzerland has stayed out of other countries' wars.
And this right here, this is the symbol of that promise of peace. The Swiss flag. That simple white cross on a red square is recognized all over the planet. When people see this flag, they think of peace and safety.
Have you ever seen the Red Cross symbol? Well, it was actually created by a Swiss man to help people who were hurt in wars, no matter which side they were on. And here's a really cool secret. To honor Switzerland's spirit of peace, he just reversed the colors of the Swiss flag. See? It's a super clever tribute to the country that inspired the whole idea. So, because it was such a peaceful place, Switzerland had a lot of time to get creative and invent some truly amazing things that, let's be honest, the whole world loves now. So let's check out some of these famous Swiss treasures. First up, cheese! I mean, with all those happy cows just munching on grass in the alpine meadows, it's really no surprise the Swiss became masters of cheesemaking. They created these super fun meals like fondue, where you dip bread into a big pot of melted cheese, and raclette, where they scrape all this gooey melted cheese right onto your plate of potatoes. So good.
And of course, you absolutely cannot talk about Switzerland without talking about chocolate. But the Swiss didn't just make chocolate, they changed it forever. A Swiss chocolatier was the very first person to think of adding milk, inventing the creamy, smooth milk chocolate we all know and love today. So next time you have a piece, you know who to thank.
Okay, now for a totally different kind of invention. Have you ever used these sticky strips to close your shoes or your jacket? You know that familiar rip sound? Well, you can thank a Swiss engineer for that little bit of magic. And the whole idea was inspired by a walk in the mountains. This engineer, he noticed all these sticky plant burrs clinging to his dog's fur. He got curious and looked closer, and he saw they were covered in tiny little hooks, and that gave him a brilliant idea to just copy nature and invent Velcro. How cool is that?
Another world-famous invention is this amazing multi-tool. It's basically like a tiny toolbox that can fit right in your pocket. It's become a symbol of Swiss cleverness and, being ready for any problem, no matter how big or small.
So, from its legendary beginnings and all these clever inventions, what is Switzerland actually like today? Let's take a quick look at what this modern fairy tale is all about.
Well, today, Switzerland is a modern country that still really honors its past. It keeps that promise to be peaceful, just like it decided to do centuries ago. And all that stability has allowed it to become famous for precision and quality. You see it in everything from their watches to, of course, their chocolate. It's a place that really values taking care of its people and its incredible natural beauty.
You know, the story of Switzerland teaches us something really important. You don't have to be a big country to have a huge impact on the world. The power of just sticking together, the wisdom of choosing peace, and a few clever ideas, well, that can change everything. It kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What big ideas can even the smallest places share with the rest of us?